Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this webinar by COREcruitment. Thank you very much for joining us today. CORE has been running a webinar series now for about 12 months, and we've interviewed over 950 industry leaders through the pandemic. We've had lots of great insight and quite a few laughs over the past 12 months, which have been quite serious. Now, today's webinar is we've done in conjunction with MAPAL, and we're going to be looking at how to rebuild and mass recruit, and we've got some great speakers who are going to be giving us a little bit of advice around that as well. The webinar will be going on for around about an hour, and it is fully interactive, so if you are watching it live, then we'd really encourage you to put any questions into the Q&A box as we work our way through the webinar. So good morning, panel. I'm going to work around you guys first and get a little bit about yourselves and your backgrounds. We've then got some survey results that we're going to be sharing, and then we're going to go into some Q&A time with Lee and Adam. So firstly, Hayley, I'm going to come to you, and could you just tell us, for the people that might not know, a little bit about MAPAL, what it is, and a bit about your customer base as well, and yourself and your background too. That would be great.
No problem. Good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here. And yeah, so my name is Hayley Kyle. I'm the Customer Success Director for the UK for MAPAL Group. And it's actually really exciting because it was just this week we've officially merged our businesses to become the MAPAL Group. Most of you on this webinar today will probably be familiar with Flow Learning, and that is my core background. I've been part of the business for nearly 11 years, and hospitality to me is in my veins. I was born into the industry. My parents have owned hotels, and I've only ever really worked in bars and restaurants, and in the last 11 years on the tech side of the business or the sector. And yeah, I'm just delighted to be part of this today and speaking with such amazing and influential people in the industry as well, to try and have a good conversation about what it is we're all facing in the recruitment and onboarding needs of the business and sector, and the challenges that everyone will be sharing. So MAPAL Group as well, just for everyone who's not familiar, we are going to be a tech product for hospitality. So we've got 5 businesses that are going to merge together or have merged together. So we want to be that one-stop solution for all of your operations needs within the businesses.
Excellent. Thank you very much for being with us, Hayley. Much appreciated. Lee, we'll come on to you next. If you can give us a little bit about yourself and your background, that would be great.
Hello, yeah, my name's Lee. I'm the head of learning development for the Coaching In Group. We're a company of 18 or so, 18 coaching ins in market towns across the country. I am currently in an office, which is a bit of an alien thought for a lot of people, but I have 2 young children that as soon as they see my laptop think it's a toy. So yes, coming in here is definitely a way to be more productive. I've been with the Coaching In Group for nearly 15 years now, and headed up learning development for the last 10 or so. So hopefully I can add some insight to some of the topics today.
Excellently. Thanks very much for being with us. And Adam, on to you.
Hi there, guys. Good morning. I am not in the office. I'm live from a bedroom in East London at the moment. I am Adam. I'm the head of learning and development at D&D London. For those that don't know D&D London, we are a collection of 43 restaurants and 1 hotel. We're in London, Leeds, Manchester, Paris, and New York, and as of September, Bristol as well. The thing about D&D that makes us slightly different is we're not a chain. All of our venues are individual and bespoke. So I've been in the role for nearly 2 years now, so not as experienced as some of the guys on the panel when it comes to hospitality, but I've definitely been through the ringer with our challenges we've had throughout these lockdowns and reopenings. So hopefully I've got a lot of insight to share with everyone.
Excellent. Thank you very much for being with us as well. Now, I'm going to attempt to share screen, which should have just worked. If the technology was all okay, please tell me if it's not and you're staring at my LinkedIn profile. But CORE and MAPAL did a little survey that Hayley is going to talk over. So Hayley, if you want to let us know a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Perfect. So this survey result presentation that I'm going to go through with everyone just now was sent out, I think, in about early February to our customer bases between Core and Flow Learning. It was around about a response rate of around about 80 odd businesses, and shared between those companies that took part. We probably are looking at them having anything around the region of about 1,000 venues. So I feel like a very good sort of pool of feedback that we got from the people that took part in the survey. So we appreciate their involvement in it. It's probably, if you don't mind going to the first page, Krishnan, please. It's probably worth us just even starting with a little bit of positioning as to the results that we have here today to talk through. And what I want to do is just give everyone some food for thought for the conversations that we're going to have with Lee and Adam off the back of some of these results. So the main thing to just keep in the back of your mind is most of the results are just the average percentages, and you all be aware, in particular the diverse group of people we probably have joining this webinar today, that hospitality is different everywhere you go in the sense that of what your offering is and what your business is like. So we've got lots of nuances to take into consideration here with the results, whether you are a city centre location, whether you're a hotel, a restaurant, a cafe, a bar, whether you're a destination as well. So the results aren't just speaking about one type of business, is what I'm trying to say. And the results also came in before the the updates from the government and from Boris. So I feel like even on this first page, if we can look at the focus on recruitment needs at the moment, I would probably predict, sorry, Krishnan, just the page before, sorry, it's fine. I would probably predict that the spike that we're seeing at the moment between March and June will actually come a little bit earlier now, knowing that businesses have the opportunity with outdoor space to open in that April timeframe. So probably the thing that we're looking at here is that that steep spike in recruitment needs will actually come earlier in the year, and definitely within the next couple of weeks it will start to become that main focus for all the businesses within hospitality. Next page, please.
Excellent.
This is great. I could do
it's
with
like it's like the government briefing, isn't it?
I think it's a better
today?
chart than the government. I think it's a better document than the government briefing, to be honest with you.
It's probably more factually correct as well, right? So we've actually asked people in the industry for their feedback. So instead of just presuming. Anyway, I'll get in trouble for saying that. Okay, so these were some of the questions that we asked everyone to give us their feedback on. And the first, this page and the next one that we're going to start with are very much just looking at the percentage results for a couple of questions. Focusing at the moment on this one here for how are you preparing for your reopening? And the results, I don't think, will come as much of a surprise to many of you. And if we look at the top three answers here, there's a real focus for all of you about your training materials, what messages, what information do your team members need to be able to do their jobs. We've had so many changes, right? We've had so many lockdowns. When we last went into lockdown, it was Christmas. We're coming into spring, summer. Suppliers might potentially be different. So there's a lot of information that you need to be able to train and educate your people in the business on to be able to reopen and reopen successfully. And tied into that will be the next 2 points. So obviously thinking about how you're going to advertise and recruit for the right people to come and be part of your business, and then trying to work out how many people you need and where you need them. And this is all something I know that people might feel quite comfortable in, that we've done a reopening before. However, my question today would be, what are the potential differences that we need to focus on this time around, knowing that there really will not be another lockdown with the vaccination being successful. So potentially there are a couple of extra questions on what's different from reopening before to reopening this time. And again, we'll love to get some of Adam and Lee's feedback on that at some point in the conversation today. The last point on this page is an interesting one for me, and it's quite a small sort of focus at the moment on training leaders on how to recruit. And that could be for a number of reasons. That could be because the majority of people that were retained within the business were within that head office team, and they're capable of doing recruitment at your management level. Or the question would be, has that not necessarily been a focal point, and is that something that we should all consider as part of our preparing to reopen? Next page, please, Krishna. So the next question was just about the biggest concerns, and I'm sure everybody listening in today, including myself and the team and the panel, have these concerns about how do we make sure that this expectation, and I was thinking about it last night. I mean, I am just absolutely desperate to get out there, to meet up with friends, to have a drink in a beer garden, to enjoy some great food, and to book myself in for a holiday of some sorts in the UK as a staycation. So hospitality is absolutely at the forefront of my mind as how do I enjoy myself after 12 months of being restricted in everything that we could do. So tying in with these challenges are the concerns are balanced with the expectations that customers will have walking into any of your venues. And that ties in perfectly to this top one here on product and quality of that delivery. When you're trying to balance the new people within the business and making sure that they are competent and comfortable and knowledgeable with what you offer will be extremely important. And that ties in nicely to the next concern, which is that impact on that guest experience. Customers are very much going to be, they're going to have everybody fighting to get them to walk into their doors. So that experience is absolutely crucial for that return business. And then the next one for me would be those timescales. So how are we going to onboard our new people to make sure that everyone can deliver on that service, that quality, and that guest experience? Interestingly, here on this page, and it will come in some of the other results that we'll talk about in a second, is this churn factor. So how do we, as operators within the industry, retain our core talent? How do we recruit, and how do we make sure that those people are willing to stay with us? Because what we don't want is people then thinking they can just quite quickly jump ship. You're going to invest a lot of time and energy and resource into getting these new people within the business, or your previous team members back into the business. You're going to invest a lot of time in making sure that they are that their energy levels are high, especially for people that have been on furlough, right? It's been an extremely challenging 12 months for people that haven't been working on a day-to-day basis. So all of those factors together formulate a lot of these concerns here. Next page.
Next slide.
And just touching on what I've kind of previously said. So these are the main concerns, sorry, the main challenges that everyone fed back within that first 100 days of onboarding. And interestingly, again, when myself and Lee and Adam were having a chat before, we were just talking about the fact that there is no quick fix to this. You don't just hire people and bring them on board and train them in a day and expect everything to be done. There is no end to training and learning for these people within the business to be able to deliver that great quality experience. So we're saying 100 days here, but it's not just about those 100 days. These are the challenges that we've always faced as operators. So some of these are not actually even new, but they come with new challenges or new additional challenges to factor into things like your churn, retaining staff, and really importantly, the culture fit. How do you make sure you get the right people to work for your business that isn't a quick fix because they're there and it's just people that you need bodies within your venues? How do you make sure you stick true to what your offering is, and therefore your customers will have that great experience when they come to your venues? And we can move on. So the next 2 pages, I'm just going to touch on 2 sort of key points on these. It was about the skills that employers will be looking for and are feeling are most important to bring on board quite quickly. So it will become come as no surprise to all of you, just with regards to the biggest percentage being that junior entry-level F&B staff. And I feel that quite nicely tie into everyone's experience of that furlough situation that we sadly had to go through with our team members. So that would be the biggest focus here. But I kind of had a question in my head looking through this about the kitchen staff, and it made me think about, well, maybe there's not so much a focus on kitchen staff for a few reasons. Could it be because we as operators chose to retain kitchen staff because we could diversify our offering and move to online and deliveries? There was a huge trend of that during the lockdown period, and potentially that will continue in some ways as well. Or was it because kitchen staff have always been such a challenge for us in the industry to attract and retain in the first place? So is it that we wanted to hold on to them? And again, that's I feel a good discussion point, or potentially questions for people to ask later in the webinar. The next page for me was just calling out the fact that for the first time, we can see now people that employers are looking to bring on board. And we're focusing here on point number 4 for head office and head office staff, and even point 5 for management. So I think Lee and Adam had some good feedback for me here. Was it because it's quite easy to know exactly how many people you need for these positions versus that junior entry level and kitchen staff combination at the top of this list? But my experience within our business for Flow Learning, specifically trying to reach out to head office, HR, learning and development operations, was we had a lot of people on furlough, and sadly some people that were made redundant as well. So I feel like it's quite an interesting point here that it's a smaller percentage that's being planned for recruiting. So it'll be good to get people's thoughts on that too. The final couple of pages then, just to touch on some answers that we were given with a scale option. So 1 being I do not agree, and 5 being I completely agree. There's the next 3 slides focus on training and skills, and then our next favourite subject after COVID and furlough would be Brexit. So starting on this page here, we've got a question about after reopening. I don't think there will be enough time to train employees before the peak season starts. And this was a really balanced response here. There wasn't too much variation in what people were thinking about how much time will they have. And there could be a number of factors to include in here. My questions to Adam and Lee, and they'll tie in with our conversation, is, well, when will training and learning start for everybody? It's not going to be just after reopening. It obviously needs to start prior to. And how will we balance that concern of churn and retaining great people once we've recruited them and got them into the door and into each of the venues? And then how do we handle that training on the second peak that will lead us into the Christmas market? So I feel like that ties nicely into some of the questions we have lined up for today. This one here was just about making up for the lack of skills. Oh, sorry, quickly, Christian. So here, interestingly, people didn't necessarily agree that they were going to have to hire more employees. And my question would be, is that because of a few factors? Is it that people will be expected to do more than just one role when you hire them? So having a lot more multi-skill across one individual? Could it be to do with cost to the business? And could it have a feeling of uncertainty with regards to staffing numbers when it comes to COVID measurements of social distancing as well? And the last 2 slides are, just because we've not had enough challenges this year, right? We've now got the joys of that actual fact of Brexit. We knew it was coming, and before furlough, COVID and everything happened in 2020, this would have been something that we were all spending our time and energy focusing on to make sure it didn't have any kind of negative impact on our industry. And I think there's a balance here of the positives to take out of Brexit, along with some of the challenges that we will face. It's no surprise that we had a lot of EU workers within the hospitality industry, and that pool might now be a lot less to choose from. So the question here and the result is that people do agree that they will have less EU workers working for them. So to the next page then, Krishnan, where do we find people to work in our industry? And if it is coming majority from the UK as we expect it to, the question is, where do these people come from? What jobs were they doing before? Were they in different sectors? Could it be that they worked in care? Could it be that they worked in retail, industries that also have been pushed to their limits or found a decline in over the last 12 months? And the question would be as well, will we struggle to entice people to come into hospitality given their nervousness as to what happens in this last 12 months and it not being as secure as people would have looked? So I think that there's a lot of questions that are still to be answered. No one will have a definitive answer, but the whole point of us discussing this today is to get everyone's input. And back to then the experts that are on our panel today, who very much are feeling and living this, this environment right now with regards to recruitment and keeping and retaining great team members, because they are out there, we know it.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Hayley. Much appreciated. Just as a note to anyone watching, we are going to be sending a link to that PDF document around with the recording afterwards. So if you do want any details or any information from it, then absolutely we'll be popping that around. Now we are going to run over a little Q&A with the guys. We're going to start off with Lee, but if you've got any questions, and even if it's not a question, even if it's just a topic or a subject that you would like us to cover as part of the webinar, then absolutely feel free to put that into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and then we'll go from there. So Lee, I'm going to come on to you first, and could you tell us about your recruitment plan for when the lockdown has lifted?
Thanks, Christian. Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking at recruitment already and have been for a little while, but it is difficult to anticipate what needs we're going to have. What's interesting in the results that Hayley showed us just a second ago was the point about being prepared for the peak season. Well, we're addressing it as when we reopen, we're going to be hitting the peak season straight away. We're expecting that hospitality boom. So we're working with our GMs, looking at their anticipated recruitment needs and starting putting feelers out initially, whether that's through social media posts or with existing team members. But then we're going to take that further, looking at what job roles we need to recruit for. I think we're in a interesting position that we don't have vast outdoor spaces. So we are holding off until the 17th of April to reopen. What that will give us is we'll be able to look at the industry and what's happening in the industry from the 12th of April when the outdoor areas open. We'll be able to get a feel of what business levels are going to be like and can base some decisions on that. So we are starting that process already, and I think that's important. We need to know what we're looking for. There's going to be a lot of competition for great talented people out there. But it is just going through the tried and tested methods, believe in what you've done before, trust your current method, have a look at how you've recruited in the past and stick with that. So, we're looking at the routes that we've always used, and just believe that, being an employer of choice and being, a quality employer will help, attract the best people that we can. But I think the important thing is, start that process now, start speaking to, site management, the key people within your business, and anticipate what those needs are going to be. I think we're in for a boom this summer in terms of hospitality. I think the industry needs it, and I think we can expect it. So don't under anticipate what needs you're going to have out there. Just start that process and start trying to attract people now. Get the message out there.
Excellent. Hayley, Adam, anything to chip into that?
No, I would agree. I mean, we're in a different situation. We are going to start opening some of our restaurants in April with the outside space. So I think we will already start to see, how many customers come back, how many staff come back, and we'll be able to sort of monitor from there and try and be as proactive as we can, really, to understand what recruitment looks like. I think there is a lot of uncertainty still. And we definitely got roles that there's vacancies for, and we're actively recruiting for. But with the roles that Hayley put up on the slide, I think some of them are still an unknown at this point. So I think it's going to take a lot of close monitoring from our talent team to make sure that we are, we're hiring based on the numbers of staff coming back and also the amount of customers coming through the door.
Absolutely. Just staying with you, Adam, and in terms of the remaining team who are still furloughed, how are you helping to use this time to get them to learn and develop?
I mean, we launched a learning development platform in the first lockdown, which was really successful. And we, that is where we drive all of our company information, all of our staff questions get answered there. And once we knew, once the government released information saying that staff could volunteer and get training, be trained during furlough, we saw that as an opportunity. So we started to, I guess, encourage people to, to sharpen up more than anything and make them aware that this was possible. And we put together a bunch of training links and all from all resources externally. So I know that there, Flow, for example, Diageo, Hospo Live, all kind of external stuff that's been going on. We've tried to bring that into our platform to drive it through, getting our people engaged. Likewise, we've also had a number of internal things going on as well, like cook-alongs, wine academy. But at the moment, it's still kind of more about fun and engagement and getting people kind of ready, so they start to change their mindset and get ready, almost prepared for work. I think within the next few weeks, because the training, they're already used to being trained, and us encouraging them to keep sharp and keep developing themselves. When it comes to more of the business critical training, i.e. COVID and any other reopening trainings that we put out there, I think people will be much more attuned to what we expect when it comes to them either attending training and them contributing in the training as well. So I feel like we've got the ball rolling with that already. So if anyone's on the call and they kind of want to start to sort of sow the seeds a little bit, I would just say, get the word out. And there's so many resources available from the hospitality industry who've been excellent at pulling some free stuff together for people to watch, read, and learn about. So I feel like there is so many things out there that you can point your staff to.
Absolutely. Lee, anything to chip into that?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with Adam there. I think it's really important that we use this time. We've got anywhere between 6 to 10 weeks now, depending on when venues are opening, and this time is absolutely invaluable to engage teams, to keep them engaged with what they need to know when they're going back. And the tools that Adam's alluded to, whether that's e-learning through systems like Flow, we also use that. Is a great time to start looking at some of those compliance trainings. So just as an example, we're taking all of our team members back through fire marshal training, where we've got trained fire marshals, just as an example. This is a really critical time that we can utilize. But also it's about using training as an engagement tool leading up to the reopening, and that's why this period is key, because you'll have people that haven't potentially worked for the best part of 7 months by the time we reopen. So using this time that team members are on furlough leading up to the reopening is a great time to re-engage with them, and training is one way, that probably the best way that we can do that at the moment.
Absolutely. Now, Adam, coming back onto you, and obviously, it's going to be double kind of challenge coming out of lockdown this time, because you're going to have to get all of your existing team kind of back into work and reassured, and as well as kind of potentially onboarding quite a lot of new starters as well. How are you going to tackle this? Are you going to just treat everyone like a new starter, or how are you going to face this challenge?
So when we reopened last time, for all of our existing employees, we put some we had some COVID training that was released for everyone that they had to go through, and they had to go through that before coming back into the business. However, I think you're right. This time round, I think there will, because to Lee's point, people have been out of the business for so long now, and I feel like it's not just about, oh, here's what you need to know, go and do it. There's definitely, I feel we need to give a nod to the fact that their mindset needs to be focused, and they need to come back knowing that you've got to come back, and it's, the work environment may be different, the restaurant might be different, but I think that you need to almost encourage. Sorry, there's sirens going by. That's one of the disadvantages about working from home. You can hear the sirens there. But you need to encourage them to think differently as well. And I think a lot of our training when we reopen this time will be not only, hey, here's the training, all the COVID training you need to have. It's much more about welcome back to D&D London. This is what we expect. This is how we want you to come back focused and more aware. That will definitely be part of it. I think there's also, we've started this journey already. We've started, we've done a number of webinars that our CEO and COO have presented. And I think the idea of that is we're going to basically cascade all the information down. So every manager is going to do a site-specific webinar for their team as well. So everyone, even before they set foot in a restaurant again, will have their communication from their manager on what they expect, what's going on, and obviously all the training they need to do before they start. So I feel like there's, if you, once again, we have got that time now, and make use of that time while we've got it to make sure that we are, you know, almost setting the standard and getting, you know, telling people what we expect at this stage.
Excellent. Lee, anything to chip into that?
Yeah, I mean, we've identified a 3-stage program for all of our existing team members leading up to reopening, and we started about a month and a half ago. It probably sounds a bit premature in terms of leading up to the reopening, but I think it's important, you know, for us particularly that we use this time, and that started off with e-learning. We started off, you know, refreshing courses, adding new courses in there, building custom courses as well. So we've taken our guest service workshops and built them into an e-learning course just to help with that process. Leading on from that, the second stage, which we're in at the moment, is focusing on virtual learning. So running virtual workshops on coffee, on wine, fire marshal, things like that, where we get people you know, to log on. It's that almost virtual classroom environment, and that leads nicely onto you know, what the third stage will be, which is you know, coming a little bit closer to reopening, where we start to have bite-sized face-to-face sessions, keeping it you know, small groups, socially distanced, and you know, we're looking kind of mid-April really for that, but actually getting some of that practical training. And we know we're quite a hands-on industry, and I think it does need that, but we've got to do it you know, very conscious of you know, guidelines and you know, our team members' feelings. So I wouldn't say that we're re-inducting existing team members, but we're certainly hitting it hard with you know, with training options. And I think one of the big things actually, as well as we've started a program of mental health and well-being training as well. One of the big things that we're conscious of is, I say, with venues being closed, you know, for close to 7 months, there is going to be the element of fatigue when people come back. You know, team members aren't going to be used to being in that live working environment. So we're really focusing on you know, virtual training sessions on mental health, on well-being, and that side of things. And I think that's you know, a really important thing to look at over the next few weeks, leading to that point where people have been off work for an extended period of time and coming back into work. It's going to be a shock to the system.
Yeah,
I think that a further point on that is, you know, there is a temptation to give all of this information in one go, and that's like, you know, that's one thing as an L&D guy I'd always advise not doing, because it's easily forgotten, and also it's quite overwhelming. So try and sort of build that out as a journey for people, so it doesn't feel like you give, you know, once you give too much information, it's tough for people to kind of take it all in. So I think it's important to build a journey that makes sense to people, and you don't give them too much too soon.
Can I just maybe ask quickly to tie in with that, something that was in the earlier results, but this kind of like, how do you make all of that really attractive versus all the other businesses out there in hospitality, right? We're going to be fighting for the best people to come and work for each of you. And to your point, Lee, you're wanting to make sure that you're making it clear that there's this offering of like wellness support. And I'm just trying to think, like, what's the difference that operators are going to have to do now to retain staff? And do you think that that's any different from before?
Might need to amplify it more. Yeah, sorry,
Adam. No, go ahead. I think we've probably got the same thought anyway.
I think my point very simply is just amplify it more. And if we weren't doing enough of it, shout louder about what you're doing. I think because sometimes we can be modest about, you know, some of the maybe internal development programs about what we're offering. But I think it's all about now hospitality operators really banging the drum and shouting about what they're doing, because that is the way, the killer difference you're going to be able to use to attract people and, you know, hopefully make them stay as well.
Yeah, Christian, and you're probably going to hate me because I know I'm taking us off piste here, but something else that just came into my head, maybe Lee, you can answer this one, is do you think you're going to see people that want to work in hospitality hold on to that work-life balance that we probably didn't really promote or encourage enough of before? So do you think that's going to be one of the factors where people go, do you know what, I will only work 30 hours a week or 20, I'm not going to do 40 plus? Do you think that's going to be a challenge there?
I think as an industry, you know, we often talk about flexible working and work-life balance. I think the hospitality industry has always been at the forefront of flexible working, you know, offering contracts that are 20, 30 hours, you know, that are those coffee morning rushes or evening and weekends. You know, we are really flexible. And as an industry, if you need to go to a dentist appointment, well, you might just work the late shift on that day, or have that as a day off. We aren't those rigid office hours of Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And I think that's a really attractive piece within the industry. And I think we need to shout out about that a bit more, and really sell that actually as an industry, work-life balance has always been really important to us. Yes, we need to do more to ensure that people are taking the time away from work, and where people do want potentially less hours or want specific times off, we need to be flexible to meet that. But I think as an industry, we also need to celebrate where we have been really proactive in the past as well. And I think also it's important to stick to your culture as well. So we have got a lot of great companies in this industry. And in terms of being able to attract people, as you mentioned, stick to your culture. Stick to what you believe in, what's worked in the past. We don't need to make massive changes now. Just really trust in what you do as a company. That culture is really important, and culture isn't something you change overnight. So it isn't going to change between now and when you reopen. Just have belief in the culture you've had for the last however many years.
Yep.
Brilliant. Hayley, any more questions?
No, sorry.
No, just checking. No, it's great. It's great. Adam, there was a question which popped in on the Q&A. Sorry, it is a bit of a sticky one, but it's one which kind of I think a lot of people would want to have an answer to. But how do you overcome challenges when teams just do not want to complete the requested training?
Yeah, that is a difficult one. I think there's different strands to that, isn't there? I think that first of all, I think that the training you put in front of people has got to be relevant, and it's got to be contextual to your business and your people. I think, I'll give you an example, real life. My girlfriend is currently doing some IT training for her company at the moment, and it's playing while she's just walking around doing other things. She doesn't care about it. It's not relatable in any way to her role. I think, first of all, to get people to do the training, be it mandatory, it's got to be really fine-tuned to the role they're doing and the company they're working for. So that's the first thing. Make them care about the training. I think second of all, I think you've got to just have a process in place when it comes to making sure people do the training. And I think that we've got a system, an internal platform that allows us to see the data so quickly we can identify who has and hasn't completed it, and if they haven't done it, then we have notifications that ping through to them almost on a daily basis, so they continue to do it. But I think then you've got to look at using your managers as a to support you as well, because it's so hard that if you've got working remotely, working online, to just drive that through emails or communications of getting people to do the training. So your managers are really key to drive that training in particular. But an example with our COVID training, it was a target for every manager that they should get 100% before 100% completion before any of their staff came back. So they owned it as well. So if you can make the ownership just not on L&D and make it part of the wider business and on your managers, I think you have a good result in making sure people do the training. Obviously, if they still don't do it, then I think you need to look at other means possible. But I think hopefully, if you connect all the dots between making the training relevant, getting your managers involved, then you should be onto a winner.
Right. Lee, do you want to pick up on that one?
Yeah, I think it's also important to acknowledge that we've got a lot of team members, working in our businesses in the industry, and not everyone learns the same. So whereas some people will take as many e-learning courses as they can and plow through them and really enjoy it, other team members won't take on the information or won't have the motivation to go through written information in front of you. So it's important to look at that blended approach. So complementing e-learning with some face-to-face learning, some virtual classroom, that side of things. We have people that learn either by reading, we have people that learn by watching other people do it, and then people that learn by actually doing it. And it's important to get a blend of all of those. And you won't be able to engage everyone just by approaching it with one approach, one learning style, just by ticking off e-learning or written word. So it's important to look at different methods of getting the message across.
Absolutely. Now, Lee, just staying with you, and in terms of your company and how you're determining the resourcing levels that you're going to need for the future, how are you going about that to make sure that you've got enough time to actually recruit and onboard people?
So it starts off by engaging with the GMs, our venue managers, and we're doing that already. It's a lot easier with management positions because we know where we need a general manager, we know where we need an assistant manager, so we can start to recruit for them now. Looking at fill in those places. As I mentioned earlier, we're not aiming to reopen until the 17th of May when that date comes around, due to the limited outdoor space. That gives us a little bit of time. When the outdoor spaces reopen on the 12th of April, there's then 5 weeks from that point to the next stage that Boris set out, which actually is quite useful, because when you look at the recruitment cycle, it times quite well. By the time we've got maybe a week or two's worth of data, you go through job adverts, the interview process, any notice periods that might be in there, the initial induction. That 5 weeks is perfect timing to fit in that recruitment process. So although it'd been great to say that we're opening some of our outdoor spaces on the 12th of April, by actually waiting, because that's what we've got to do due to limited spaces, it actually falls in really nicely to look at what recruitment needs we're going to have, anticipate where the industry is going to be, and then to go through that recruitment process.
Absolutely. And it's quite likely that the market is going to go from kind of like nothing to, well, from zero to boom very, very quickly. How do you think that you're going to be, I'm trying to point at my core recruitment sign at the moment, how do you think you're going to find the best people?
Sorry, Christian, I missed the end of that question.
How do you, sorry, I was distracting you with the fancy camera work. In terms of like how you're going to find your best people, like what methods are you going to be using to kind of get them recruited quickly and onboard them?
I think it's important to look at the tools that you've already got. I think it's important to look at the businesses in the industry that can help out with that. So we've long been associated with Flow Learning. So in terms of induction, we do a lot of it through the learning journeys on there. I don't think now is ideal time. Certainly from an L&D perspective, it isn't the time to be looking at changing all of that. You need engagement is difficult enough as it is. So maximise the learning providers you've got. From a recruitment perspective, it is going to be tough out there, because as much as we know that unemployment is quite high at the moment, it's going to be a very competitive marketplace once we do reopen. There's going to be a lot of good companies fighting for the best people. So you've got to use whatever you can to maximise your opportunities. That starts with celebrating what you do as a company. Celebrating the fact that you're a company, aspirational company to work for. But it's also about striking up partnerships with great recruiters, great recruitment boards and things like that in the industry, because it is going to be tough. There is going to be a point where there's a lot of companies fighting for the best people. So maximise your opportunities when you can, and use the best partnerships that you can.
Absolutely. Sorry, Lee, I've boxed you on that one. You can't get away with it saying core recruitment now. It's like it's embedded in your brain.
Absolutely.
Adam, did you have anything on those points to pick up on?
I think Lee's spot on. Actually, I think that something he said earlier, which is really struck a chord with me, is stick to your culture. There is a temptation to sort of because we're in this situation right now where recruitment is going to be tough, is to try and be everything to everyone. Don't be. Just be. Own you and own your business, and stick to the culture that makes you great at what you do. And I think that something at D&D that we're going to try and do is really point out our what makes us unique, because that will appeal to the right person. And I think something that makes us unique is that we are diverse, and we've got a wide range of different restaurants across London, Leeds, etc., Manchester. So I feel like what we're going to drive is the idea that people have got that diversity when they come and work at D&D. That's a competitive edge that we have maybe over some other operators. But I would say my advice would be, is once again, if you aren't doing it already, reviewing job descriptions and really amplifying the programs, the training programs, the benefits, all of that stuff that you do, even things like, links to charity days, those sort of things, really amplify that stuff. Because again, it's going to be difficult out there. So, go out, looking at all of your training, your opportunities you give people, and make sure that it's really loud and clear on your JD, so people are aware of the type of company you are, and what their experience will be if they work for you.
I think as well, just tying on to everything that both of you have said, back to sort of comment and question that we raised before, is like where are some of these workers going to come from if it's not part of the existing EU pool that we had, if they're coming from different sectors. And I think, Lee, what you mentioned, and I know Adam you agree with, is this promoting the fact that hospitality does allow for that work-life balance. Like, we can make that work. Yes, it's open from early in the morning till late the next again morning in some instances, but there is the ability to make that work, right? And I think that the most important thing for everybody in this coming year and years to come, and I'm so hopeful it doesn't change, because I think it's one of the nice lessons that we've learned from COVID, is finding time to spend on what's important to you as a person, your family, your friends. And I do think hospitality allows you all of that, because you also get to enjoy hospitality even when you work in it. Going back to like my hospitality days, actually operational, I might be crazy for this, but I miss Christmas shifts. That doesn't mean I'm going to sign up for them anytime soon, but the buzz and the enjoyment of like working with everyone in that busy environment, I feel like there's nothing more satisfying than being part of a team and delivering like a great day of service. It's so rewarding. Anyway, that's my tuppence worth.
I agree. I agree.
Coming back to you, Adam, and in terms of positioning your business as a preferred employer in a competitive marketplace, what do you think you guys can be doing?
I mean, some of the points I've already mentioned actually, but I feel like I would say, look, do you know what, lockdown has given us a lot of perspective as a company. We've kind of looked at, okay, what do we need to do more of to grow and retain it, and I think that every hospitality operator should be thinking that now, and really kind of challenging themselves from top to bottom. What can you do that's going to bring the best out of your company and get people to sign up and work at your business. I think we've got some great things that we could shout about, absolutely, but we've actually got more things that we could do to attract that talent. So I think that overall it has given us a lot of perspective to kind of step away from it and go, right, how do we become a better employer of choice? And I think there is, it's also looking to other operators, seeing what they're doing as well, and understanding that where are we in that kind of when you compare us to other operators. I think it's important to do that, because you can get stuck in your own bubble of how you operate as a business, and sometimes get carried away with thinking that surely people would want to work for you, but then you need to look outside to get some of that inspiration sometimes, to know that there are people will maybe have a choice of where they want to go and where they want to work for. So I feel like it's important that you take stock of what are we offering our employees compared to other companies, and we're definitely going through that process right now.
Excellent. Anything to add to that, Lee?
For me, in an L&D role, you've constantly got to be a strategist. You've got to look at innovating and moving forward. You can't stand still in this industry, in this marketplace. So you've always, as Adam said, you've always got to look at what more you can do. You've got to look at what your competitors are doing. But I think that isn't anything new for now, for the reopening process from this lockdown. I think that is just something that as companies, and certainly from an L&D perspective, you've always got to be doing. You've always got to be looking at the next solution, the next way of dealing with things, the next innovative way of doing things. And by keeping moving forward on that and other areas of the business, it's just then about your self-PR. Get the message out there. Don't be afraid to say, this is what we're doing. This is what sets us apart. We don't want to be bragging or anything like that, but we also don't need to be humble. We need to, sell what we do. We aren't there just to expect people to want to come and work for us. We have got to, we've got to sell our, the business to, to people that want to come and work for us. And I think a typical question in an interview is, why do you want to work for this company? More so now, I think it's, why should the company be an attractive proposition to the employee? We need to sell why we're better than the restaurant down the road or the chain that's across town. We need to really celebrate what makes us special.
And I think that if you don't know that, then that's the thing you need to reflect on now, I guess, is understanding what makes you different. I think, Lee, you're absolutely spot on. I think that's so long we've always kind of existed in that bubble where you ask people why they want to work for us, when really it should be the other way around.
Absolutely.
Tied into that, sorry, Christian, do you mind if I ask a quick question?
No, go on.
I'm just wondering, like, for our audience today, and again, taking into the sort of diversity of size of businesses, and one of the biggest challenges I think everyone will be worried about right now is just like business costs. So from what you guys have been saying, one of the things I'm taking away from it is it doesn't always have to be about attracting with the salaries. There's other things that we should be doing to make sure that, okay, it might not always be the most important thing for that person, their base salary, but potentially there's other ways that makes up the perks and the benefits to them as an individual. And that's back to this work-life balance, or maybe some of the perks you offer as a business, maybe the promotion opportunities being made really clear to them. Or just the fact that, do you know what, you're a really busy venue, and if you treat your customers well, give them the best experience, you tend to get a nice little tip at the end of it. So I think it's not always just about fighting when it comes to sort of trying to attract that, that talent for your own business. It doesn't always have to come down to base salary, right?
Absolutely. I don't think, I've seen, research in the past that salary isn't even in the top 3 considerations when people are looking for, a new role. Of course, remuneration is an important factor, but you've got to look at what you can offer. And, tips, you mentioned tips is a fantastic thing. Some of our sites are hitting an extra £1.50 an hour based on tips. Now, that isn't something we can advertise, but it's a powerful thing as an industry that we offer that you don't get in a lot of other industries. But it is about the complete package. What do we offer for career progression? I think a lot of the times is the top factor when you look at the complete package. But you need to look at your benefits, your health and well-being, and things like that. And yeah, I completely agree. Salary, although it needs to be competitive, isn't the most important factor anymore. You've got to look at what you offer as a whole package.
And what you've just mentioned doesn't always come down to an actual financial thing for a business to offer, right? Just good career progression doesn't cost money. It's just good organization and sharing that message with everyone who works in the business. So
absolutely, and it benefits the team member or the potential team member, and it benefits the business. Career progression is a win-win for everyone.
Lee, staying with you for the moment, in terms of the skill shortages you're expecting to face kind of like after this, do you think a lot of people are going to be turning their backs on hospitality?
I don't, and I'm not worried about a skilled shortage, if I'm honest, because as an industry, I think we've always led with the kind of tagline that we recruit for personality and train for skill, and that's no different now. We're looking at a robust training program, as we've already discussed, leading up to the reopening process. So even with new recruits, we will carry on doing what we've always done. We will recruit on personality, recruit people that want to work in the industry, have that can-do attitude and have a great personality. The skills we can train. We can't train someone to smile, but we can train people how to make coffees, how to, pour a pint and all of that side of things. So personally, I'm not worried about a skill shortage because I believe in our learning development solutions, our training packages, and I'll stick to that tried and trusted method of, recruit for personality, train for skill.
Absolutely. And Adam, coming back to you, and just in terms of your onboarding process, it would be normal to have any kind of like frontline new starter, kind of like obviously as part of a mentoring or a buddy system, especially when you're kind of like, launching kind of like, but when it comes to new sites, what are your plans in terms of, getting people onboarded in the best possible way?
Something that's been discussed all throughout this webinar, I think we've got an opportunity here to drive through digital and don't leave it too late, because if we're leaving it to when our restaurants reopen, then we're looking to train them in person. I know that there is a temptation to do that, and hospitality is very social, and we like to, be that sage on stage and, jazz hands and, be in a classroom or kind of do the on-the-job shadowing. I think those methods are quite effective. But look, we've got an opportunity now where people are sitting at home potentially, and they are they've got an appetite to get ready and get primed for work. And we've acknowledged that. And a lot of our training at the moment is going to be we're driving it through webinars and online resources. So look, I think that overall, what you want in an ideal world is people are walking through the door on day one when you reopen, and they've already got an idea of what you're expecting, the knowledge, not necessarily the skills, because again, like to Lee's point, that might need a little bit of refining, but they need to come prepared. And so you've got then that ample time, that optimal time when you're in the business and in the restaurant to get some, to do the rest of the training. But you've got an opportunity now to get them ready, and we're certainly doing that. And so my advice would be, start early, don't leave it to the last minute. And also as well, something that we're trying to do with our trainees, particularly onboarding, is people don't remember stuff that's super generic. It will be in one ear and out the other. I think if you can really tailor it to your organization and make it contextual to that person's role, the site they're working at, that if you can fine tune that journey as much as you can, then you're more likely to get someone who is hitting the ground running. At D&D at the moment, we've got a specific welcome to D&D with a whole kind of batch of videos and information about joining the business. What we're going to try and do as it continues is make it specific to the site they're going in, and then also make it specific to the site they're going in and also the role they have as well. So we've got basically just trying to fine tune it even more so that person is starting and they know exactly what's expected of them, regardless of their role, regardless of their site. And that's something, that I would always advise. There is temptation to throw content at people and it's sometimes generic. Don't do that. Make it specific to your brand and specific to the role that people are working in, for sure.
Maybe one of the benefits that everything you've both been talking about is the world of digital. For anyone of our audience and our customer base out there that are listening to this today that haven't necessarily looked into it, it might seem quite daunting at first, and in fact seem like a lot of work, but there's huge benefits to be had, right? You can create one template of the generic and then tweak and customize it quite quickly to make that a really efficient way of getting the right message across when you've got several different venues. So for D&D, Adam, I know there'll be a core values message you want to get across to everybody. You get that part right, and then you can tailor the rest of the content to make sure it is site and role specific. But maybe just to point out to people that are listening, it doesn't have to feel daunting. It doesn't have to be huge projects. But you can be really clever with how you use digital and online learning, obviously flow learning, to try and make sure that you don't waste time repeating things or having to start from scratch every time you want to make a change as well.
Yeah, I think that also as well, don't forget that people are Googling their way through life all of the time. So I feel like, I think that there is sometimes a feeling that hospitality, with technology, there is maybe a reluctance. I would say people are, particularly even now, relying on their handsets, relying on their laptops to find information they need. So if you're just trying to, if you're worried about maybe this won't work in my organization or it won't work in this industry, it will, because we've noticed we've put tech out there and courses and online material, and the appetite has been great. So I'm sure Lee you'd back that point up. I think it's sometimes about just taking that leap of faith, really.
It is, and I think over the last year, if one thing's come out of it is that we've all had to embrace technology. That when you look at these kind of video conferencing technologies, whether that's Teams or Zoom or even more informal ones like House Party, they've all come to the forefront and have become part of our life over the last year. And when we talk back to the original question of mentoring and buddy systems for new employees, even though we're not in a live environment, why can't we mentor and buddy people through video calls, a WhatsApp message, or even just an old-fashioned phone call? All of these things can still take place by using what we've embraced over the last year in terms of technology. And I think we've learned not to be afraid of technology, but to incorporate it into our L&D solutions. I remember talking at an event November 2019 about what 2020 held. I won't lie, I couldn't have been more wrong about what 2020 held, but one of the core things was, someone once said, technology is taking over, and it's not, especially in the people world. Technology will never take over. We are in a people industry. What we need to do is embrace technology and utilize it. We need to utilize it as a tool to be more efficient, to free up time so that we can do the more face-to-face personal element. And when it comes to recruitment, when it comes to onboarding, that mentoring and buddy system that Christian originally asked about, technology is there to be used, not to take over, but very much to be to work alongside the fantastic people that work in the industry.
Yeah.
Excellent. Guys, I think that's been a really interesting session, and I think people would have got a lot out of that. So thank you very much for taking the time and taking part today. It really is much appreciated. And Hayley, thank you very much, especially for getting involved and doing the survey with us as well. That's been really, really good. Guys, we've got one more webinar today, which is female entrepreneurs that we're doing at 12 noon, and we've got a really great lineup for that, including the founder of Leon, Allegra McEvedy, who's going to be coming on board and telling us a little bit about her story and also entrepreneurship as well. We're not actually doing any webinars this afternoon because we figured we'd let Rishi have the stage, and I think everybody will either be pouring themselves a large drink after that one, if all the news reports are to be believed. But we'll be back next week with a full lineup of webinars. But thank you very much for participating today, guys, and thanks very much to the audience for being so active on the Q&A. It's much appreciated. Bye all.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Bye.